There's definitely a baby crying in the background, and we're live. This is Brews and Bets, fellas. CG, why don't you introduce yourself and your baby crying in the background? Go ahead,
Yeah,
buddy.
baby's crying in the background. I always tell the wife to take him in the bedroom, but it never happened. So I apologize for the background noise. But it sucked not having MMA this past weekend, but I was occupied watching the Michigan State game, really hoping Izzo was going to get that second national championship, but it never materialized. So, but to say that I'm jacked up for UFC 236 would be a complete understatement. So, ready to talk some fights.
Yeah, this is going to be a good card. And you do owe me an apology, no?
About Yusuf?
I mean, you would have cost me $3,000, bro. That's all I'm going to say.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So he almost finished it at the end. You know that, right? He dropped it in the third. Yeah.
He almost finished it. I would have been happy to walk away with the inside the distance prop, take away my $600. That would have been fine for me. But Tyler, how we doing? How is Sacramento, sir?
It's going good. It's finally starting to warm up. I'm tired of this rain out here. I heard that back where you guys are, there might be some snow coming or something.
I don't think by me, but I think northern New Jersey, possibly New York. But yeah, I think we're just getting rain.
Yeah, and, it's like 80 degrees here. So
yeah, all right. And Big Mike, how's it going? Why don't you introduce yourself to the podcast, sir?
Not too bad, Steve. Mike Ricciardi here. This guy's cousin. But
don't worry about shaving. Don't. That's not.
Yeah, no. It's never happened. It's not too bad though. It's not like homeless looking or anything. But
no, I wasn't thinking that either. All right, so let's get right into this. First fight of the night is Randy Costa and Brandon Davis. Ty, you have a little bit of a take. Again, we just did the Quan Edge podcast, so I know we're kind of on the same page with a couple of these fights. But Ty, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So I think that Randy Costa is pretty unproven. He does have some nice fights, but they're versus fighters that are not near the UFC level. So it's kind of hard to gauge how good he is. But one thing that I did notice is that he struggles versus pressure. And Brandon Davis is the type of fighter that's in your face. He's going to throw a high volume. I think that he's going to pick Costa apart and make him uncomfortable the whole fight. At worst, he's going to win a decision, but I could see him finishing towards the later rounds. Right now, you're getting minus 170 on him. I actually like that a lot, and I'm personally going to be playing that one.
By decision? What do you think? You think he finishes?
No, because I think he could finish, but I'm not really confident in him actually finishing. But I am confident on him winning the fight. So at minus 170, I'm comfortable playing that straight up.
CJ, I don't know if you've seen Randy Costa's opponents, but his four opponents are 0-3, 5-10, 0-1, and 0-6. Any play here? Is Brandon Davis just that good in a spot here to win this fight?
I think he is definitely the more battle-tested fighter. The only thing that Costa really has going for him, because you mentioned, I mean, he beat a bunch of cans. He's 4-0, all wins by KO, but not very impressive given his opponents. So I think Davis should have the edge, and I expect him to win a striking-based decision just because he doesn't punch with a lot of power. He only has one win in the UFC against Steven Peterson. We don't know if Costa is ready until Saturday. I mean, he might not be a UFC level fighter. The one thing that concerns me about Brandon Davis, though, is he was beat decisively by Kyle Bochniak. So I just don't know if he can be trusted. But, if I have to pick one fighter, it's definitely going to be Brandon Davis.
Yeah, I think so, too. I actually like Brandon Davis by decision. Mike, what do you think here? Any plays in this fight?
Nothing early. I'm way more focused on the main card, to be completely honest. Not really too sure about this one to be.
All right, you know what? We're gonna give you 20 minutes. We'll call you back in 20 minutes for the main card. Come on, kid. Next fight of the night here: Poliana Botello and Lauren Mueller. CJ, I'm gonna throw it to you because I know how Ty feels about this. We're kind of on the same wavelength here. Botello, both of these girls actually disappointed in the last fight. I thought Botello, I was on Botello too, and I know it was tough for Ty to be on Botello because Cynthia Calvillo is the person who was able to submit her, and her being from locally, right? Team Alpha Male Ty, I believe she trains at, and Mueller's Alliance MMA, and I really thought that she had a terrible performance against Yanan Wu and got herself, I think it was an armbar early. So who do you think wins this fight, CG? Is there a play here that you like?
There is not. This is the only fight that I'm not playing really at all. I'm not betting it. I'm not playing it in DraftKings. There's a lot of hype behind Botello, and I was heavy on Cynthia Calvillo in their last fight. Gun to my head, I think I have to go dog or pass and go with Lauren Mueller. She strikes at a higher rate, and neither girl impresses me that much. Not a fight that I'm very enthused about. So dog or pass.
Yeah, it's kind of where my head was at too. Ty, anything to add on Mueller? I think it's dog or pass for me too.
Yeah, the only thing that I do find interesting, I think that Botello's only chance to really win this fight is by knockout, and right now her to win by TKO is plus 225. So if you wanted to, you could play her at 225 by knockout and then play Mueller at plus 155. I kind of think that Mueller is going to grind her out. She's the type of fighter that could put pressure on Botello, and Botello didn't really react that well when she's being wrestled or clinched. But if she could keep the range, I think that she has a good chance to knock Mueller out.
Yeah, even that Pearl Gonzalez fight. Now that you say that Pearl Gonzalez fight, Pearl was able to just basically pin her to the cage. I was kind of surprised she won the fight. I mean, Pearl didn't strike at all, but
Mueller's the type of fighter that could execute that same game plan.
Right.
But in the parts of the fight where there's space, Botello has that one punch knockout power, and so I think that Mueller's going to dominate the fight, but there's always that chance that she could get knocked out by Botello. And so I don't know if I necessarily want to make a play, but that it's an interesting way to kind of shore up both people's path to victory.
Yeah, play it plus money both ways. CG, Montel Jackson and our boy Andre Sukentop. Hate saying that name, but Montel Jackson is a guy who I had mentioned early in the week to CJ. I think we hit up on Twitter, and I said to you, I said I want to bet Montel Jackson. I'm hoping a playable line comes out, and the line supposedly came out like minus 200 and shot up. By the time I saw it, it was already minus 400. So at this point, for me, it's unplayable. But I think Montel Jackson is. I think he's going to finish him personally. So I'm just taking a look right now. Jackson wins by KO, TKO. I think it's playable at plus 245. That's what I'm looking at. CG, what do you think, though?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement. I think Jackson's going to win the fight. My problem is the line. If you could, make a play on Jackson at minus 200, then it's a good play. But at minus 500, I just don't like it. Jackson's a freak at 135. He has long reach, big hands, technical striking, completely dismantled Brian Kelleher in the last fight. He used his technical straight punches to the point where Brian Kelleher just couldn't strike with them. Then he goes for the takedown. Jackson stuffs it and goes in for that Darce choke and is able to quickly execute because of those long arms. I mean, he is a freak at bantamweight. So only reason I makes me a little bit cautious to bet this is Andre Sukentov. I know he has a low fight IQ, but the guy can fucking crack. I mean, he has 8 wins by TKO, and he's dangerous. And this is definitely going to be Montel Jackson's biggest test. I know Brian Kelleher has some decent wins in the UFC, but Brian Kelleher was just a ideal matchup for Jackson. So I think Sukentov is going to give Jackson a much tougher test. And, we'll see if, Jackson can deliver. I think he will. I think he'll win. But let's be honest, Jackson's inexperienced. He has less than 2 years experience as a pro. So, I mean, this is going to be a good litmus test for him. And I know you mentioned betting him to win by TKO. I mean, if I was going to bet Jackson, I would bet him to win inside the distance. at Jackson wins inside the distance at -10 because don't forget in his last fight he won by submission. So just to cover yourself, I would bet him to win ITD. But I'm not betting this fight at all. Really, I'm going to play it in DraftKings. I'm not betting it because Sukum Toth has never been finished. I think he has 6 losses, lost all 6 by decision.
Well, I'll tell you what, CJ, 2 weeks ago, you pressed me on the Josh Emmett. I don't know if you remember it, but Josh Emmett, whether he was going to win by decision or by knockout. And I said he had a shot for that knockout. And Ty, we all know our boy Josh came through with that 3rd round knockout. CJ, I was ringside for that. I could see the spit coming out of Michael Johnson's mouth.
That was nasty.
When he connected with that. It was ridiculous.
It was similar to the knockout against Ricardo Lamas, really. I mean,
yeah, it was. He was going to lose the fight. He was down 2 rounds, Todd, right?
Yeah, he was down 2 rounds, and he actually had a at one of the local clubs here. They had a coming home party for him this weekend. I wanted to go, but we were in San Jose, so couldn't make it out.
He actually said post-fight in the interview that he was going to stay in Philadelphia with the family for a little bit.
Yeah, they went to, I think I seen on his Instagram, they went to Washington, D.C., and just toured all around. It looks like they ate a lot of good food.
Great time of year for Washington, D.C., too.
Yeah, and then he actually flew back, I guess, this weekend, and they had a party here in Sac, but I couldn't go. We were in San Jose at the Sharks game. So,
Ty, before I go to the next fight here, you have any plays on Montel Jackson here? Do you like a sub? Do you
I think he wins pretty easily. I'm not sure how he could win by knockout, submission, or decision. So I'm not too up on any of the props. I think that he could win right away, or he could win in the 3rd round. And I'm just not really sure how it's going to happen. And I don't really think the -500 is playable. So I'm probably just going to stay away unless I see something to add to a parlay, or if the line comes down a little bit.
All right, so I'm going to introduce this next fight, and then Ty, I'm going to throw it back to you for the Boston Salmon and Khalid Taha fight. So Bilal Muhammad and Curtis Melender is the next fight up on the card here. And I think that this fight has kind of went back and forth, but for the most part, I think that Bilal Muhammad is in a great position. This is a stylistic matchup that just doesn't play to Curtis Melender's strengths, in my opinion. A couple guys have tried to take him down, and it doesn't seem like he has a great ground game. And I think Bilal Muhammad is the kind of guy to really get inside, push him up against the cage, and once he gets his back to the cage, drag him down or dirty box and clinch him up. And I think he's going to have success doing that. I do like that Bilal Muhammad is coming off a fight in which he needed to kind of use that same game plan, couldn't figure it out, tried a couple different things, and kind of got his nose bloodied a little bit by Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal, I think, is very, very good. And I just don't think that Curtis Melender is as good as Jeff Neal. He presents a little bit in different issues in terms of that length. 78-inch reach, I believe, 6'2", 78-inch reach. But again, Bilal Muhammad for this weight class has kind of been shorter than everybody that he's fought, so it hasn't really been much of an issue. And if he just uses those takedowns, last 5 fights went to decision for Bilal. Last 4 fights, 3 takedowns, 1 takedown, 4 takedowns, 2 takedowns. So if he can secure 2 takedowns, he probably wins those 2 rounds and wins his fight. So I like Bilal Muhammad. -140 I think is playable. And again, even on the feet, as long as he's not at range, I think he's going to be able to get inside, push him up against the cage. So CG, what do you think about this one? CG there?
Sorry. I had to go on mute because my baby keeps crying. But I just think this is the perfect spot for Muhammad to get back in the win column. Muhammad was on an impressive 4-fight win streak. Then he lost to Jeff Neal, and I agree with you. I think Jeff Neal is a legit threat in welterweight division. His takedown defense was ridiculously impressive. But just Millender just seems to be completely delusional. Guy's got no self-awareness. He's obviously deficient on the ground, 53% takedown defense. Last month, he was taken down and immediately subbed by Zaleski. And Muhammad's going to do the same thing. Muhammad lands over, 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. He can box. He can wrestle. I mean, there is a clear path for Muhammad, and I have placed a bet on Bilal, and I expect him to win. I don't know if he's going to finish. You know, Zaleski's jiu-jitsu is considerably better than Muhammad's, but I think it's an easy path for Muhammad to win this fight. So probably by decision, maybe he gets the finish, but just to be safe, you know, I would just bet Bilal for the win.
Yeah, I don't even see Muhammad by decision here. I don't see it listed. Oh no, here it is. Wins by decision plus 165. That's not bad to get plus money on a decision prop.
Huh.
That's not a bad play at all. I kind of like that. Ty, what do you think? Any bets here?
Yeah, I don't know if I would play the decision, which I think that Muhammad by decision is a decent play, but given how bad Melinder is on the ground, I wouldn't be surprised if he can get him in a choke or something.
Okay.
If it goes to the ground, I could see him submitting him. If it stands up, I could see Melinder knocking him out. I just don't really know how to feel about the fight. I'm kind of going back and forth. So right now, I'm not going to bet anything on it. I'm kind of just going to wait it out and see.
Muhammad's last 4 wins were by decision, but yeah, like you mentioned, Melinder's terrible on the ground.
Yeah, and I mean, in a rear naked choke or something to that effect is not really high level. Muhammad could hit something on like that.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I just think that plus money on the decision prop is playable for me. I may put something on that. Ty, Boston Simon and Khalid Taha. I know you got a strong take here, so go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna be playing Taha pretty heavily. So you know, we were talking earlier. You were crediting Boston Salmon's boxing, and he did look really good on the Contender Series, but he was facing Ricky Turquoise or
Tercios, I think is how they say it.
Yeah, and I mean, he's kind of a slow fighter that doesn't really have that good of boxing at range, whereas Taha is going to be the faster fighter. He's going to be the stronger fighter. He has ways to win this fight. Salmon's really only aspect of this fight that he has the advantage is if he can keep the distance and keep the range. And I just don't think that he's going to be able to do that because Taha is going to be so much faster than him. And if you look, Taha's last fight where he looked kind of shitty, he was fighting on short notice at 145. He's dropping back down to his original weight at 135 for this fight. Man, I didn't expect to get plus money on him. I'll take that all day. I'm very confident in this fight.
CJ, what do you think?
So I agree with Ty. In regard to Taha being just a tough, grimy dude, but I mean, Salmon's boxing credentials might be the best on the UFC roster right now. I mean, the guy is fluid, technical, and if it remains standing, which I think it will, because I know the majority of Taha's wins are coming by KO, I just don't see how Taha has a viable path to victory. I mean, Salmon's boxing is that good. It really is. So I think it's kind of going to be a chess match for the most part. I mean, maybe not. It could get a little bit ugly because Taha's kind of wild, but I think Salmon's going to win a striking-based decision. Just outbox him.
Interesting. Yeah, I was very impressed. As Ty and I are talking earlier on the Quan Edge. I was very impressed with his boxing. So and
he's
specifically
a southpaw too, right? He's a southpaw.
He's a southpaw, and specifically his counter punching. I think that Taha personally, I think he's going to lead the dance here, and I think he's going to play into Salmon's hands. After hearing Ty say what he was saying, I got a little concerned with my analysis, but I think I'm going to watch a little bit more film of that if I'm going to play anybody in that fight. But so I think Salmon, either guy could knock each other out. I think.
I don't think Salmon could knock him out.
You don't think so with a counter punch?
No, I don't think so. If you go back and look at Taha's fights at 135, that's what I'm referring to. He hasn't looked good at 145. At 135, he's a beast. And my notion on this fight is you're getting plus money because I think the public perception of Boston Salmon from the show is that he's a great boxer, which by all means he is. But I think that a lot of people are down on Taha because his last performance was so terrible at 145. And I don't know if it was in that fight that he blew out his knee, but He's going back down to his natural weight class. I think that getting plus money is he should be the favorite in this fight, and that's why I'm so heavy on this fight is because the odds value is there. He should be a favorite in this fight, and you're getting him at plus money.
So what do you think his path is? Do you think he's just going to outstrike him?
I think that he's faster. He could dodge in and out, and I think that he can knock Salmon out. Taha packs a punch, especially at 135.
And he's coming off.
Yeah,
Salmon's coming off a knee injury, and Taha's coming off a torn ACL.
Well, Taha only loses fights in where he gets out wrestled. He doesn't lose stand-up fights.
I mean, again, I'm going to watch some more tape before I make any plays, but coming into this, I did like Boston Salmon in this fight. I was actually very impressed with his wrestling. But like Ty said, I was very impressed with his wrestling because his striking because of what happened on Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series.
And in that fight, he was fighting a guy that was not a good boxer.
Correct. That is true too.
I got to be honest. I thought the line was going to be more wide. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Salmon was minus 200. I just think if it's going to be a striking match, I mean, this guy's a professional boxer. His striking is good. Oof. We shall see.
CJ, all I want you to know is I'm waiting for you to make one of your vaunted faces or one of your jazzy lines, because that's going to be the next Twitter meme or something like that. I'm cutting film later after this.
I'm still on my first beer. Just give it some time, okay?
No, I just want you to know I'm waiting. I'm looking for this. All right, so we got a pretty good fight coming up here. Actually, I'm sorry. This is Max Griffin first, so this isn't a great fight. Sorry about that one. I thought we were going to Pantoja. All right, so Max Griffin and Zelim Imadaev. I'm just not. I don't know what to make of this guy Imadaev, and again, he's not a ground guy. He's a striking guy. Max Griffin's a striking guy too. These are both boxers, kickboxers. So I think they're going to strike. I kind of feel like Max Griffin. I'd rather just make a play on him because if I'm getting even money on Max Griffin, I think that's as good as a play as ever. This guy hasn't fought the same level of competition, and the guys that he has fought have gassed out early that they weren't much of didn't present much of an issue at all for him. Now, with that being said, you're talking about a guy in Max Griffin who has fought the likes of Colby Covington, Curtis Millender, and Thiago Alves and Zaleski in Brazil. So I think he's had a couple tough fights, and I think his experience is going to get him through this fight. But Ty, what do you think about this one?
I'm not excited for this fight at all. I'm not going to make a play. I'm actually more interested in looking up Boston Salmon's amateur boxing record. I have zero interest in any Max Griffin fights ever.
All right, CG, anything here? Do you trust this guy, Zelim?
I don't. All I heard about him is that he's a complete prick and he tries to hurt people in practice. And I think him and Max Griffin have some beef. So the one play I do like is that this Salim just seems completely reckless. He goes out guns blazing, tries to take your head off. All his wins are by TKO. So I think if I'm going to make a play at all in this fight, it's going to be for this fight to end inside the distance. The thing is, though, Max Griffin seemingly gets rocked in every fight, but he usually gets his bearings back and then ends up taking the fight to decision. So that's what scares me a little bit. But, I know this Zelim guy, most of his wins are against a bunch of cans. Max Griffin is battle tested. But, he's taken some shots in his day too. So, yeah, overall, I think it's kind of unpredictable. I don't trust either guy. But if I'm going to make a play, this fight should end inside the distance, I would think.
It's very interesting, this line here.
It keeps on going back and forth.
It goes back and forth, and it's favored. The line is set at over under 1.5 rounds. And I'm kind of surprised because fight goes to decision is plus 140.
So
you would think that number would be bigger, no?
Griffin wins inside the distance plus 330. Yikes. And then Zelim is plus 135. So
They
And
must
again,
really like
Max
it.
Griffin's a tough guy to put away, though. He really is. I mean, he went 3 rounds with Selesky. It's pretty impressive. Where he was rocked numerous times, and I think Griffin even won the 3rd round in that fight. So
And
Griffin's tough. He really is.
He took a couple shots from
Mike
Perry
Perry.
also.
Yeah.
Big shots from Perry. I may make a play there. I don't trust this guy's land. I don't know how good. I mean,
That's the thing.
I have no problem eating it if he is as good as advertised, but I just don't think he is that good.
Plus 330 inside the distance for Griffin might not be a bad line. I mean, who knows what Salim's cardio is like? He hasn't fought high-level competition. Can he go 3 rounds at the UFC level?
No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you there. I kind of like that. Ty, I'm going to throw this next fight to you and get myself another Michelob Ultra. I know how CJ feels about this, but
Jesus Christ.
Ty, introduce us to Wilson Hayes and Pantoja, please.
Hey,
Yeah, yeah. So with this fight, I really don't understand how Wilson Hayes is plus 135. Pantoja is terrible off of his back, and I think the fight's going to end up there without a doubt. Hayes is just gonna pretty much spam takedowns. Pantoja is not the greatest with takedown defense, and he's just so bad on his back. I wouldn't be surprised if Hayes submits him, or at worst gets a decision with a lot of takedowns. I'm really surprised that he's the underdog in this fight.
So, yeah, I think this is a tough fight to call. Hayes averages over 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. And seeing that Pantoja has 60% takedown defense, you know, Hayes has a viable path to victory, and he's good in top position once he executes the takedown. But the thing is, if the fight remains standing, Pantoja is considerably better on the feet. His striking is much better. And I know I keep on going back and forth. I think the value on Hayes is pretty good, but at the end of the day, they're both black belts. And I think if Hayes does take Pantoja down, similar to the way Dustin Ortiz did, if Pantoja can get up, keep the fight standing, then I give the slight lean to Pantoja. But this is such a close fight. I'm not going to bet it.
CJ, do you think he can keep the fight standing?
Pantoja's a pretty good scrambler. So even the fight against Dustin Ortiz, that was kind of back and forth. Ortiz landed some takedowns. Pantoja was able to reverse it a couple times. So
that fight too, I don't mean to cut you off, but that fight too, the entire first round was spent on the ground, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that was a very close fight. I know Ortiz won the split decision, but that could have went either way. So, I mean, they're both black belts. Pantoja is the better striker by far. I don't think Wilson Hayes has one win by TKO. And then he averages less than 2 strikes per minute. So Pantoja, meanwhile, 4.3. So Pantoja has more paths.
All right. Dale in the chat is a big fan of Pantoja. Dale, I don't know if you have any questions other than he's saying that he gets up super quick, fast hips, which I don't disagree with. And again, there's going to be some scrambling in this fight. But with all that being said, I just think that Wilson Hayes is going to be able to clinch him up, get him up against the cage, and really kind of grind out a win here. I see Hayes getting that win. So,
hey, CJ, going back to Boston Salmon's amateur record, do you happen to have a link to anything? Because all I'm seeing is that he made one national tournament ever as an amateur, and he lost to Errol Spence, which Errol Spence is a stud.
He's a stud. He took him the distance, right?
No, he had to retire in the second round. And everything that I'm saying, like, he was decent in Hawaii, but he was hopeful to play on a college football team, and it didn't work out, so he joined a national tournament.
I mean, my whole thing with that fight, though, is, I mean, Salmon does have the better boxing credentials. He's the more fluid technical striker, and if it remains standing, I just don't see how Taha has the edge.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to do some research because I never heard of Boston Salmon being a top-level boxer except for what he's said in interviews.
Yeah, I heard it in interviews. I also heard it on the telecast for the Contender Series telecast. So.
Yeah, because I heard that he was trying out for UNLV's boxing team, but he didn't. He either didn't make it or had something with that issue, and he joined some national tournaments.
Okay.
But
And yet, Wilson Heiss is 34 years old. Dave in the chat is asking, but he's 34 years old. So I don't think he's too old. I think he's still moves well enough. I like Wilson Heiss there.
And he's a world champion jiu-jitsu guy if it does go to the ground.
Yes, correct. CG, I'm going to throw this next fight to you because I know how Ty and I actually talked about it at a pretty good length on the Quan Edge podcast. Again, if anybody's interested in some DFS information, come on over to the Quan Edge, use code Brews, and you get a little bit of discount there. They have what is it, Ty? 1 week you can get everything for $4.99?
For the Quan Edge?
For the Quan Edge, right? One shot deal?
It might be. I'm not too up on the new promo.
Yeah, I think it's $4.99. You get 1 week, you get everything for free for 1 week. All right, Jalen Turner and Matt Favola. CG, what do you think here?
I am absolutely jacked up for this fight, and I have a hard stance too. It's Matt Favola, and never in my life have I been so enamored with a fighter with 0 wins in the UFC. But this guy is tough. He's wild. He's exciting. He's like that little kid on Adderall that's just fucking nuts and can't sit still.
That's the gift right there, Ty. That's what I was waiting for.
He's nuts. I had heavy DraftKings exposure to Lando Venata when these guys last fought, and Venata had Favola rocked a couple times, but Favola kept on coming back, rocked Venata a couple times, and I remember thinking
Favola had Venata rocked too.
He did, and I remember thinking like, I'm not betting against Favola again unless he is completely outmatched or like takes a fight on like a week's notice. But Favola has numerous paths to victory. I love the Cyril Longo camp, so he's well rounded. He can knock you out. He's got good jits training under Matt Serra. And Jalen Turner, I mean, I think all of his wins, I want to say, or the majority of them are like first round knockout, beat a bunch of cans. The guy's young, 23 years old or something. Yeah, 23 years old.
Yeah.
And he's already been knocked out 3 times, not just knocked out, like knocked the fuck out. So, I mean, the kid's already been beaten down and, his chin's not good, and Favola's definitely going to test it. And to get Favola plus money, my God, I'll take that all day because the guy's got more paths. All Jalen Turner can do is hope for a knockout. The one thing that does scare me is Jalen Turner has a 6-inch reach, but Favola is so just fucking crazy. I mean, I don't think he's going to have any issues getting inside. So I've already placed a bet. I think the line I got the other day was Favola inside the distance at plus 233, but I'm very confident in Favola in this fight. Although I will say, maybe I'm just overexcited because, like I said, the guy has 0 wins in the UFC and he doesn't have the best striking defense, but he has more outs. So Matt Favola.
TJ, I definitely give you that you're excited. You may be a little bit too excited, but I agree with him. I am on Favola, and Ty, I know you're on Jalen Turner, so let us know why. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's not that I'm on Jalen Turner. I don't really know much about Favola, and I wasn't too impressed with him in what I did see. But CJ's excitement is starting to get me excited about him, so obviously I need to research a little bit more.
Listen,
so when I bet him at 233 inside the distance, just a heads up, that line is now plus 173. So people are starting to recognize.
If you watch that Favola fight with Venata, I mean, that was a great fight.
Fuck yeah.
You know what I mean? And some of those rounds, like these guys got knocked down multiple times. Like the first round, Venata got knocked down, Favola got knocked down with a head kick. I mean, that round was crazy. Then round 2, they come out and Venata gets after him. Then round 3, Favola gets back after him. I thought Favola was done. Once Venata came out and did what he did in round 2, I thought he was done. Favola got a second wind, and round 3 was all his.
That's the thing, too. What if that was a championship fight? I mean, at the end of round 3, Venata was toast, and Favola looked like he was still ready to go. Favola's got a gas tank.
Bro, that was at Madison Square Garden on the November pay-per-view card. That was a big environment. I was actually at the fight. I was in the media room. But I do like Favola here. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could see Turner using that length and knocking Favola out because he's going to connect with Favola.
Yeah.
But if he didn't get knocked out with that head kick, I mean.
Well, and don't get me wrong. I'm not betting on this fight either way. I was just leaning towards Turner because I'm not that high on Favola, but it wasn't confident enough to place any bets. But speaking of Madison Square Garden, did you see the wrestling match that was announced?
Oh, that was the is that the Dylan Dennis Ben Askren?
No, it's Ben Askren and Jordan Burroughs.
Oh, Jordan Burroughs. You know
Yeah.
what?
Whoa.
Dylan Dennis was talking about it. That's why I
Yeah.
said Dylan Dennis. But yes, I did see that wrestling match.
Dylan Dennis is a fraud, so don't even worry about what he says. He's not good at anything.
Before we move on from this fight, I just want to say what's more impressive to you guys: Turner's win over Kellen Potter, who sucks, or Favola's draw against Lando Venata?
Oh, wow.
I mean, Favola's draw was Lando Venata. It's not. It isn't close.
I don't know. Potter's was on his home soil. No.
I mean, not for nothing, but the shots that they hit each other with, I know I've said it already, but Favola and Venata, I mean, either one of those guys could have won the fight. I think it was a very fair draw, but those guys hit each other with a lot, man. They really beat each other up. I think that these two guys are going to beat each other up in this fight, Nikita Krylov and OSP, and I really just don't like either one of these guys. Ty, I know how you feel about this, so CJ, I'll throw it to you. I don't know if you have a strong take.
Oof. I keep on going back and forth. I have some good data on this fight. So the last time these two fought, OSP took Krylov down and, hit him with that Von Flue choke, choked him out within a minute and a half. In Krylov's last two fights, he was taken down and subbed.
Yep.
So Krylov has 40% takedown defense, and he was taken down in 7 of his 10 UFC fights. 5 of his 6 losses are by submission. OSP's a brown belt. He has 7 wins by submission, 5 submissions at the UFC level. But if Krylov keeps it standing, he's going to win the fight. So there's so much data that, tells me that OSP is the responsible pick. But at the same time, I mean, OSP is like one of the riskiest plays in the UFC. I mean, he really is. I mean, you never know what you're going to get from the guy. And, he was dropped by Latifi. He was dropped by Pedro. He was dropped in his last 3 fights. So, I mean, I guess the safe play in this fight is just, flip a coin or just pick this fight to end inside the distance, which isn't the best line. Last I checked, it was minus 280. I don't know what it is now. But, this fight should end, and it should end early. Fight doesn't go to decision. Now it's at minus 350. But it's safe. It's safe.
Yeah,
you can take your $3,000 and put it on this line right here.
Yeah,
I tell
promise
you
you that.
I'm not going to put 3,000 on it. I'm not as confident as that Justin Gaethje fight to finish, but I really do like OSP by KO TKO at plus 600, plus 598. But I'm gonna round it to plus 600.
If you're gonna bet it, you gotta just bet OSP inside the distance. I mean, he gets more submission victories than knockout victories in the UFC, at least.
But you know what I saw? Did you see the way that Krylov tried to crowd Jan Blachowicz? He really tried to get a fast start. He came after him heavy early. And I think if he does that to OSP kind of backs him up and then finishes with a big left hand. I could just see that happening.
Well, that scenario leaves him wide open for a takedown too. And when it's on the ground, OSP will submit him. Krylov's submission defense is pretty terrible.
So we're all on OSP then.
Yeah. I am, but I'm not confident on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
OSP by submission or Krylov by TKO?
Yo, Big Mike, I know you're still there. You got any take on this? This is main card.
I like Nikita Krylov. OSP in his last 4, he looks so like he's feel like he's just barely getting out of the first round. Like I just feel like if Krylov just puts the pressure on and keeps him moving backwards, he only has like I guess, like left side weapons from what I've seen, like the kicks and the hooks. I just don't feel like Nikita's ever going to let him settle. I feel like in the past he's fought against some decent competition like this and failed, Krylov. And I feel like he's not going to let this happen again with the submission. And Jan Blachowicz, like, he's a big 205. Like, I feel like he's just way bigger. And it was his first fight back from, like, Fight Nights Global, Nikita Krylov. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like Jan Blachowicz was obviously just – he wasn't ready for him. I feel like OSP is probably on his just – his gas tank is so bad, like in his last 4, and it's not like short notice stuff or anything like that. Like he just doesn't have any kind of gas tank, like whatsoever. Again, that's from what I've seen, and he has been tapped. His last CJ, you're absolutely right. His last couple of fights, he's been hit inside the first round, and just totally not even looked like he's really even there.
And again,
I mean, I like to like wait for the weigh-ins, but. That's
well,
if I'm looking at it that way. I'm seeing
the best guys he's fought have all been UFC guys. Jan, Misha, and OSP all subbed him within 2 rounds.
Yeah,
so take it or leave it. CG, do you know what a mush is?
Oh, what?
A mush?
Oh, from a Bronx Tale?
Yeah, it just my cousin just came on and mushed the fact that we all liked OSP, and he comes in and says Krylov. So
I'm saying that all the data that I have is pointing towards OSP, but would you be surprised if Krylov came in and knocked out OSP, who's been dropped in his last 3 fights?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I just think that it would kind of be uncharacteristic if that happened at this point. Unless OSP, like Mike was saying, if OSP is really done, doesn't have a gas tank, but I kind of feel like even though he's 36 years old, he's beaten this guy already. I think Krylov doesn't really know how he wants to come out and fight. So he hasn't had success on this level.
I was impressed with OSP's win against Tyson Pedro. Pedro rocked him. OSP got his bearings back, took him down, and subbed Pedro with, I want to say, a straight arm bar. And Pedro's another big 205er, and who's also happens to be a black belt. And the fact that he was able to finish Pedro like that after being, knocked down, I mean, that was pretty impressive. And once Krylov gets taken down and he's on his back, there's not a whole lot he can do, especially against big 205ers like Serkinov, Blachowicz, and OSP. Yeah. So, I mean, if OSP gets that top pressure on him, Krylov's in a world of hurt.
And Krylov started as a heavyweight, right? Wasn't he a heavyweight before he became?
Yes.
That's interesting. All right, yep. Ty, I know you have a strong take on this next one, Alan Jouban and Dwight Grant. I think that the line has actually gotten even shorter since we did the Quan Edge podcast this afternoon. What do you think here, Ty?
Yeah, I think that, man, it's not a strong take. It's just that, I'm a little bit hesitant on Grant. I know, like, everything about me is telling me that Grant's going to win, but I keep thinking of that Jouban fight versus Mike Perry. And he kind of just used his, I guess just his experience to kind of, I guess, stifle Perry's game. He could do the similar type approach with Grant and just turn this into a boring 3-round fight. So I don't really know how I feel about this fight. I want to take Grant, but I'm really hesitant.
Well, I'm going to go a step further and even go. I guess I'm a little more confident in Grant. I think this is dog or pass. I think Alan Jouban, he's coming off a 14-month layoff. He had a bulging disc in his neck. He had to pull out of the Danny Roberts fight, and I don't think he looked that good against Ben Saunders, somebody who I think was kind of done. They struck. Ben Saunders was able to kind of touch Jouban a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to have the same game plan here, but if he strikes with Dwight Grant is quick, powerful, and that's what he needs you to do. He needs you to strike so that he can counter strike, and I think that he's going to be able to do that. I think this kind of plays into Dwight Grant's strengths, and again, Jouban has a 5.41 landed average. So he's going to move forward. He's going to strike, and I think that plays into Dwight Grant's counter-striking abilities. So I kind of like Dwight Grant. I don't know if he finishes him, but, what is it? Grant wins by KO, TKO. It's only plus 166. I think you just play him to win if you're going to play him, but that's my play here. CG, what do you think?
So I know Joban got the win over Sanders, but his previous 3 fights against Price, Nelson, and Perry, he was on chicken legs in all 3 fights. Price obviously knocked him out. Nelson knocked him down before subbing him, and Perry had Joban on chicken legs a couple times, I want to say. And plus Joban, he's 37 years old. He already solidified his post-fight career as a UFC analyst. He already has a podcast with Karen Bryant. I mean, he's an articulate guy. What's left? Why is he still fighting? I'm sure he's just at this point finishing off his UFC contract. But he's never going to be a contender. It is what it is. His best days are behind him. I just have to question his motivation. But I think you bring up a good point. He has volume on his side at 5.4 strikes per minute. Dwight Grant is about 3 strikes per minute. So if it goes to decision, I would have to assume that Joban's going to take it. However, I don't think it will. I think Dwight Grant hits like a truck, and he has a 78-inch reach for a welterweight. That's insane. But the thing is, Grant doesn't have a very good fight IQ. I mean, I think he beat Zach Otto. I don't know how you would think otherwise. But at the same time, it's just like, you really have to solidify the victory. And Dwight Grant has a hard time pulling the trigger. But if he does land cleanly on Joban's going down because Joban doesn't have much of a chin. He's already been knocked out at least twice, but he's been rocked more times than that. So plus he got knocked out by Nico Price, who doesn't have the best striking technique. Nico Price is just another wild balls to the wall fighter. So my pick is more than likely going to be Dwight Grant by TKO. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't know. I'm going back and forth with the Dwight Grant plus 100, the Dwight Grant KO TKO, but I kind of do like that. Mike,
Dwight Grant's KO on Pedersoli was vicious.
Yeah, it was vicious. He knocked the mouthpiece right out of his mouth. Mike, any plays here? What do you think?
I really like Dwight Grant. Alan Joban, as CG said, I'll go even back one further. Like when he fought Bilal Muhammad before Mike Perry, even in that fight, like Joban allowed it to go to decision against a guy who was training through Ramadan. Like he, in his last 5 fights, he's got 0 chin. Like in the first round, he's always getting touched, and so it's obviously an issue. I mean, against Ben Saunders, a guy who's like focused on jiu-jitsu, he's in a striking battle with him and is struggling and brawling with him. Nico Price, same thing CG said. He should probably put him out pretty early, especially with his last fight. He was kind of like backing up a lot because, I don't know, maybe it was nerves in the first fight in the UFC. Like he couldn't pull the trigger, as you were saying. I think he'll be he's going to have to pull the trigger this time if Joban's going to come forward on him a little bit. So, it should play into what
that's what I
think. Doing.
I think Joban, his striking style, he's gonna force the action.
He's going to come forward on him.
If I'm Javier Mendez, I take Grant aside and say, listen, 3 strikes per minute is not enough. Pull the fucking trigger, knock Joban out, and make him become a fucking underwear model again.
CG, that's exactly what I need. We're cutting that video.
Yes.
It'll be on Twitter tonight. It'll be on Instagram. We're gonna make you a star, brother.
Is there any more? There's nothing more frustrating than somebody like Grant who has a world of potential. He hits like a truck, 78-inch reach. You can't teach those things, but he's just too timid and doesn't pull the trigger. Guy's a lot of talent, though.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next fight. I'm gonna take this one because I have a decent take on it. I just think that Eric Anders and Khalil Roundtree, I think that if Eric Anders wants to win this fight, his best path to victory is to, fight Khalil Roundtree the same way that he did Thiago Santos. With that being said, in that fight, within 30 seconds of that fight, he went for his first takedown. He was able to push Santos up against the cage. He's very strong lower body, hips, legs. And he's going to be able to grind them out, probably get a takedown if he plays his cards right and gets him off balance. We know what Johnny Walker, just did to Khalil Roundtree, so he's coming back from that. He's very strong, though, Khalil Roundtree. But that being said, his ground game isn't great. He's not able to get up. I know they said that it's improving, but I don't think it's improving enough that he's going to be able to get up from Eric Anders on the ground. Now, again, if Eric Anders wants to stand and trade with Khalil Roundtree, as we've seen in some of the previous fights, that plays into Khalil Roundtree's strengths. He's very, very strong. He hits very hard and can knock you out. So if you want to play that game, you watch out for the left hand. Again, this is lefty on lefty here, southpaw, coming from both guys. But I think Anders has an easy path to victory if he just goes for takedowns, grinds him out on the ground. And if he's able to do that for a round and a half, Roundtree's going to gas. He could even get a finish. All right. Ty, what do you think here?
Yeah, so I think that this is going to finish one way or another. I think we're in agreement that Anders is probably going to be the one to finish, but Khalil's never out of a fight. He has that one-punch stopping power. Anders doesn't have the greatest striking defense. So if for some reason he doesn't get an early takedown and he decides to strike with him, Roundtree could potentially knock him out. I think that the safe play in this fight is fight does not go to decision. Right now on some sites you can get it for minus 200. I don't mind taking that and at least stacking some money and putting it on the main event.
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. What you just said is something that I had written down. Eric Anders, he doesn't – what's the best way to put it? He kind of backs straight up when you come at him and doesn't really block his face. Like, he is very hittable when he backs up. So if Khalil Roundtree moves forward at all, Eric Anders is going to be there. CG, what do you think?
I agree with both of you guys. Obviously, Anders has a obvious path to victory. He lands 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Roundtree has 50% takedown defense and bad cardio. And what pisses me off about Roundtree is the guy has a world of potential. I'm not sure if there's anybody that has the rare combination of power and speed at 205 like Roundtree. I know that's a bold statement, but it's true. The guy hits like a fucking truck. He smoked Gokam Saki, who's one of the most credentialed kickboxers in the world, The thing is, the guy doesn't work on his deficiencies. They've always been there. The guy has terrible takedown defense, bad cardio, and they never get better. How frustrating is that? I mean, has so much talent, but he's not willing to improve his skill set. So it's just, your typical match between a grappler and a striker. If Anders can get it down, he's going to wear Roundtree out and get the win. And I'm very impressed with the fact that Anders is now training at Factory X in Colorado with Mark Montoya. They're producing a lot of great fighters. But if Roundtree is able to keep the fight standing, which we have no reason to believe he will, Anders is getting knocked out. So, I think the line's a little bit wide because look at their wins. Anders has wins over Natal, Perez, and barely squeaked by the corpse that is fucking Tim Williams. Yeah. Roundtree beat Daniel Jolly, Paul Craig, and Gokam Saki, but lost to Tyson Pedro, Johnny Walker, and Mikhail Alajaychuk. And those losses aren't that bad. Pedro and Alajaychuk are both top 20 guys. Walker's ranked number 13th in the world right now. I think he should be much higher than that after he just smoked Serkinov, who I want to believe was number 7 at the time. So, Roundtree's losses aren't that bad. This fight, if you're going to play it, I would, just to be safe, want to be risk averse, bet it to end inside the distance because it's not going to decision.
Yeah, I think there's just such a clear path to victory for Anders. If he comes out and uses that game plan that he used against Santos, I think he's got a win piled up here. But Mike, let's throw this next fight to you to start. Israel Adesanya and Kelvin Gastelum. Adesanya is minus 175. Gastelum's 155. How do you see this playing out? Any plays on this one?
I really like Kelvin Gastelum. I watched a lot of fights of his. One in particular I liked that I watched was he fought against Neil Magny at 170. Pushed the pace a lot against him. I liked watching that fight because it's kind of like they're like the same size. Just Neil Magny is probably significantly better than Israel, has more time in the UFC, and was fighting Kelvin Gastelum at 170. Now you're bringing Kelvin Gastelum back up to 185, where he feels way more comfortable, like with the weight and moving around. He's obviously going to have way better cardio in this also. I feel like he's going to push Israel a lot. He's never been pushed Israel, so I don't ever see him getting set for leg kicks. I like Kelvin Gastelum because of gas tank. I like him because he's a southpaw. I like him because of his experience. And he doesn't get knocked out. And who is Israel knocking out? And I don't mean to say it so plainly, but I mean he's a guy who's got to get set. He's got to get set, and he does have angles when he's comfortable. Kelvin will never let this kid get comfortable. There's zero chance he ever sets his feet. The wrestling too for Kelvin. I feel like he's obviously losing in the reach. He's obviously doesn't have like that. I feel like that kickboxing background or whatever, but he's a toolbox. There's a couple of tools in there, and Israel's like, you open up the toolbox and it's just like, I got a hammer. Like what can we do with this hammer? We can kick, we can punch. Our takedown defense I guess is all right, but against who? I see Kelvin kind of beating him ever, just owning the fight if he keeps the pressure on him.
And I'll even go a step further, Ty, before I throw it to you. I watched the UFC Countdown show. I think it was episode 1. And Kelvin Gastelum, he was doing sprints. And when he got up from his stance, he didn't look very athletic at all. He almost looked like he was a little injured. And, he wound up doing his sprint, but he kind of looked how I get up right now. My back hurts, and if I get up off the ground after playing with my son, like I need a second to like get myself right. I was a little concerned with that when I saw it. It didn't look right to me. But Ty, what do you think?
So that's the main reason why you shouldn't watch those shows before betting.
Yeah.
I mean, I put zero stock into any of the propaganda shows. I don't even watch them personally. I might watch them like in the 30 minutes before the fight starts if I'm around doing nothing, but I don't put any stock into it. I think that this is kind of Adesanya's fight to lose, just from the standpoint that he's going to be more dynamic. He could kind of dictate where the range is going to be in this fight. He has good footwork. He's going to be a lot better standing up. I don't really think wrestling's going to come into play with this much at all. But the one thing that's concerning with me, for me, in going all in on Adesanya, is the fact that in 6 of Gastelum's last 7 fights, he's had a knockdown. And, that shows he has a lot of power. He gets to the chin. He's aggressive. Adesanya's chin hasn't really been tested much. And for somebody like Gastelum that hits as hard as he does, if he tests the chin, we don't really know how Adesanya is going to respond. Yeah, he has an extensive kickboxing background, but with 4-ounce gloves, he hasn't really had his chin tested by a real hitter. And Gastelum's at least going to test that. How he's going to react, we don't know. So I'm leaning towards Adesanya, but I'm not confident either way. I kind of just want to see how it plays out.
CG, what do you think here?
Oh, good analysis by everybody. It's tough. One thing I can't get over is the 9-inch reach that Adesanya has over Gastelum. The last fighter that he had that he fought that had a comparable reach was Neil Magny, and he lost that fight. But people continue to mention his fight against Vettori. He was taken down numerous times. But one thing that really impresses me about Adesanya is the strides that he takes every fight. He gets considerably better every fight. I mean, he realizes that he has deficiencies, and then he makes actionable steps to improve. And the guy's good. I mean, he's a fluid striker. What impressed me everybody knocks out Derek Brunson, right? But I want to say he threw a right roundhouse kick, and before his foot even hit the ground, he threw a straight right. And knocked out Brunson. So, I mean, the guy is very unorthodox. He's very clever with his striking attacks. And his takedown defense has improved. He's 85% now in defending takedowns. But like you guys mentioned, Gastelum hits like a truck, and he's knocked down every fighter that he's faced at 185. So when I look at the metrics, if it goes to decision, I don't think it's going to be close. I think Adesanya is going to win by decision, but obviously if it ends inside the distance, it's Gastelum. So very tricky fight. I'm not betting it, but gun to my head, Adesanya by decision.
Wow. Yeah, I honestly, I want to get to the main event, so I'm not even gonna really talk much about this, but I'm not betting it. I'm not actually even excited for it, to be honest with you. I could see this fight kind of being a dud. Just because CG, as you said, if he's able to keep range, there's going to be some striking, and he doesn't really knock people out. And then if Gastelum does get inside, it could be a lot of pushing up against the cage, and that doesn't make for a fight that I can really get excited for. So I kind of feel like it's going to be more dud than excitement there. But I think that this is the favorite for fight of the night, and this is Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. So in truth be told, I am a huge Max Holloway fan. Made a ton of money on Max Holloway back in, I believe it was December when he beat up Brian Ortega. So I am very biased. I'm on Max Holloway here, so I'm going to throw it to you guys because, I don't know if you have a different take. But CG, let me know. What do you think? Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway here.
So I urge everybody to watch Dan Hardy's breakdowns on UFC Fight Pass. I mean, the guy breaks down fights better than anybody, and he had a great point. So Dustin Poirier starts off hot, but then he starts to slow down. Max Holloway, on the other hand, starts off a little bit methodical, tries to pick up on trends, and then as the fight goes on, he starts landing more and more and more. And I want to say in the fourth round of his fight against Ortega, he landed well over 100 significant strikes in that round alone. So I know Poirier brings a different dynamic. He averages almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Holloway hasn't gone against a bona fide grappler in a while. But I still think that Holloway's pace and his volume is going to be too much for Holloway. I think at some point he's going to break Poirier like he has his last couple opponents. And I see Holloway winning by TKO in rounds 4 or 5. I mean, I saw Holloway live in Detroit beat Jose Aldo, and he basically made Jose Aldo look like he didn't even belong. I mean, Jose Aldo, one of the greatest featherweights of all time, Holloway dominated him. So plus Holloway's takedown defense is 83%. If the fight remains standing, I don't know how you can give the nod to Poirier, although I've been listening to podcasts all week, and a lot of sharp people are on Poirier. I just, based on the data that we have at our disposal, I think Max Holloway should win the fight.
Yeah, and Ty, I think what CG is saying is very similar to what I had said on the Quan Edge podcast. The way that Holloway kind of dictates the terms of the fight, and he lets you kind of get off early, right? Jose Aldo got off early basically in both fights. The first fight, he won round 1, was winning round 2, and then once Holloway saw him slow down a little bit, Holloway turns it on. Like I've never seen anyone take that many – not kind of get outstruck a little bit for a round and a half, and then all of a sudden just turn it on like you wouldn't believe. What he did against Brian Ortega, CG, you said it in round 4, was unbelievable. Plus, he called the shot, which was even more impressive. But Ty, what do you think here? Anything to add or any plays here?
Yeah, so I'm going to be betting heavily on Holloway just to win straight up. I think that he's going to knock him out. I think that Holloway is going to dominate the fight. I don't even think this fight's close. Poirier's style doesn't really excite me. It's exciting to watch, but it's not exciting from the standpoint that I think that he can beat a technical striker. If you look at all of the wins that propelled him to this stage that he's on, it's versus brawlers that stay in your face and they slug it out with him. Max Holloway is not going to do that. I mean, he might do it for a minute here or there or whatever, but he's very technical and he has pinpoint accuracy. He's by far the better technical striker. The Poirier and the Holloway that fought in the first fight, Poirier had some experience. Holloway was brand new. Poirier took him down and submitted him. Holloway doesn't have that hole in his game anymore. He has good takedown defense, and even if he does get taken down, he's good at getting back up. It's not like Poirier's the top jiu-jitsu guy. So I just don't see, outside of Max Holloway just messing around and getting caught like he almost did versus Ortega, that he really has a path to lose this fight. Because, Ortega did hit him with some shots that kind of wobbled him. But I think that was more so Holloway was starting to get in his comfort zone and he was playing around a little bit. I don't think that he's going to do that in this fight because it's up a weight class. He knows that if he wins this fight, he has a big matchup with Khabib coming up. So, I just think that he's going to go in there very focused and he's just going to put it on Poirier. And I think he's going to knock him out, but I'm just going to bet him straight up. I'm going to put him in pretty much every parlay that I play.
And again, Holloway wins by KO. TKO is plus 156. So,
that's not a bad bet. But I think that he's going to win without a doubt. I don't want to have to worry about if it's by knockout. And I'm going to have him in every single parlay I play that day, whether baseball games are in it or basketball playoffs or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Big Mike, what do you think? Any bets on this that you like?
Steve, like you, I'm a very very big Max Holloway fan. I think there's a couple of things that I think they're kind of overlooked, and I like Dustin Poirier in this fight, and I know it's not because he's a better technical striker or anything like that. I have a real big belief in the weight. I have a real big belief in having that weight on your body for a significant period of time being a real issue. Dustin's got power as well. I just really think the fact that he's been a 155er for longer. Dustin is well-rounded, very well-rounded. I see that being a big reason. I see him having just being a full 155er for a longer period of time versus Max because, and you got to look at a couple of fights Max had his last couple of fights. He fought Brian Ortega, who had questionable, he doesn't want to box. He's not trying to win that fight on the feet. He's trying to submit him, so that's kind of I guess not really too fair of an assessment. And you have Jose Aldo back to back. One of them was on short notice. And the other one, I just don't. I'm like I said, diehard Max Holloway fan. I don't feel comfortable taking Max in the spot, just simply because this is a totally new. Mainly, it's the weight class. That's the big thing. Poirier is also training close. Essentially home, right? He's out of AKA in Florida, something like that, I believe.
Yeah.
And the last fight Max had, he fought, was it 12-8? Who did he fight last? They fought Ortega. And it's the weight, man. It's definitely the weight. Poirier having power. I don't think it's a walk in the park by any means. I don't think Max's jiu-jitsu, I don't think Max's real wrestling, I don't think it's really have been testing his last couple opponents. That I think Dustin's going to push the pace on him. And again, where Ortega didn't, Aldo didn't. And the fight before that, I don't even know who it was, but I know he hasn't had the pace pushed on him in a minute. So again, diehard Max fan. I see Dustin being it's possible he can knock him out. It's possible he can really win the fight anywhere. It's not one-sided by any means, but don't discredit the fact that Dustin Poirier has a shot in this one. He's got a real good shot, really good chance. And that's the weight thing being a big deal to me, Tyler.
Going to the weight issue, I think that
Holloway
actually walks around heavier than Poirier.
I think the same.
Yeah, because I think that he had lost something like 20 pounds, and they stopped him at 162 for when he was trying to match up with Khabib. Yeah. And so, he must walk around at like 185. Which
what about but what I'm saying, I guess the way to say it is not just that, but like the proper weight, like muscle tone and all that. Like if he's trying to cut to get to 145, his body build might be different as where if he's trying to get to 155 and he's just had to do it. He hasn't, I feel like, been able to be able to be a real 155 or kind of like, Nunes and Cyborg. Nunes is like, hey, wait up. I want to get a couple of months. I want to put this weight on the right way. And and it's female, so it's different. I will say that much. It is different with the females, and Cyborg is a killer beast. Let's not get. I'm not gonna get away from that. But whenever it comes to weight, and whenever people are cutting weight, it's just like, where they're coming from in size wise. But we're seeing all these guys I don't know. We're seeing the guys come up and knock out guys who are bigger, the Pettises and all that stuff. But he's just not. I don't think he's that. Well, and Max Holloway stunned in his Jose Aldo fights too, just first round, boop, and he's like, oh, whoa, wait a second, I
get what you're saying, but I think that it could translate into Holloway will be a lot faster than Poirier, and coming up in weight, he might have extra power and be able to put it on him. So I get what you're saying. It's kind of hard to read how the weight's going to affect him. And you could hold off to weigh-ins if you want to bet on the fight just to see how his body looks at weigh-ins, how he's carrying the weight. That might not be a bad move.
Bottom line, Holloway landed 614 total strikes against Ortega, and at the end of that fourth round, it looked like he just woke up from a nap. That guy can fight all day. He can fight all day.
CJ, looks like you just woke up from a nap.
Hey, I only drank 2 beers. I'm slowing down.
Two Molsons, and he brings out the Snuggie.
I'm so jacked up for this Saturday. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be a great card. It's actually a couple things that I had an issue with this week. Again, we're all in the States. It was a little difficult to get to some of these fights that were on ESPN Fight Pass. So as you're doing your tape study, I had a difficult time finding fights on ESPN Fight Pass that were done this year. I don't know if you guys had a similar issue with any of those fights.
Yeah, I did. I don't even know if I'm going to continue my Fight Pass subscription. It just pisses me off at this point. I don't know. I'm paying for ESPN Plus. A lot of the fights on Fight Pass are on YouTube.
That's true too. Well, and again, the fights on ESPN Plus, the fights that are on Fight Pass are one thing, and then there's the fights that are on ESPN Plus, and then you have to go through the whole card and find the fight.
Dude, Fight Pass is just poorly configured. Just today I was trying to find some fights for Nikita Krylov. I couldn't fight it by searching for Krylov, but then I went to Blachowicz, and then there was the fight against Krylov. It's just, I don't like how the site's set up. It's just poorly managed.
And then this is the first pay-per-view event where you have to get it through the ESPN Plus app, ESPN app, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it?
I believe that's the deal. ESPN basically gave the UFC some kind of a deal where for every pay-per-view, they're predetermining how much they're going to pay for that pay-per-view. So it doesn't matter on the number of buys.
Wow.
I think that was the sell too. That was the sell. That's why the UFC went to ESPN for the pay-per-view at this point.
Huh.
So they also struck a deal to have it be shown in bars and stuff, because I know bars and restaurants couldn't show ESPN Plus stuff before.
Yeah, they definitely needed that. That's actually where I may be watching this card. So Saturday night, I may be watching at a bar in Hoboken. But all right, fellas, that was a long card, and we are finished for Brews and Bets. So hopefully some of us win some of our bets. I'm gonna go watch Boston Salmon and make sure that amateur boxing career. I want to watch the Spence Salmon fight. I want to see how that one looked.
I heard it got stopped in the second round. So whatever round 2 RTS means, it doesn't sound good. So But I mean that is Errol Spence, so it's not. You can't take too much away from it. But I know that he was trying to go out for the UNLV football team, didn't get a scholarship. Tried as a walk-on, didn't get on. So he tried to join their boxing team, didn't get on the boxing team, and then went to try for amateur national tournaments and stuff. And he made the semifinals, whatever that means. I don't know how many people were in the actual tournament.
No, I don't know. Either.
I mean,
I'm looking to find it though.
I seen that if you find it, send it to me, because all I could find on him was that he lost to Errol Spence. And to me, that doesn't really say too much.
CG is biting his tongue right now. CG, last word. Go ahead.
No, just sometimes I think I'm missing something. I think Boston Salmon has an easy road to a striking-based decision in this fight, but I'm going to do a little bit more research. But bottom line, everybody who's listening right now, subscribe to the Quan Edge. Ty and Steve put a lot of work into this shit, so it's good value.
That's another great gift. I'm putting that one up as soon as possible. All right, guys, good luck this week.